So today we're going to talk about sugar. I'm not going to go into the dirty little details of the evils of sugar. I'm just going to tell you my story, why I decided I wanted to eliminate sugar from my diet, how I went about doing that, and how it impacted my life. So I have to say that I hadn't thought about it in many years, why I had actually initially cut sugar out of my diet. So going back and preparing for this video was kind of emotional because it took me back to a place that was, it was a difficult time in my life. At that time, I was in the thick of menopause. I was getting multiple hot flashes a day. Suddenly belly fat appeared that was never there before. Every time I looked in the mirror, I looked like 10 years older, but that's not what I was struggling with. I was struggling with my mental health. I went from being an optimistic, bubbly, spiritual person to questioning every life choice I had ever made, questioning my faith, questioning everything that I had ever held dear to my heart, and it was taking me to a really dark place. In my 50-some years of life, I had never experienced anything like that before. So it was scary. It was also lonely because I didn't want to tell anybody. I was ashamed of having these thoughts and I was keeping it to myself. I was trying to continue on like life was normal and try to keep my head above water. But I was just spiraling into a very dark hole, and I knew I had to do something to stop it. The normal thing to do would be to go see a doctor, maybe look into hormone replacement therapy, maybe talk to a therapist. But no, I decided I was going to change my diet. I'm not saying this is the right thing to do. I'm just telling my story. So I decided, all my insides are all messed up, my hormones are wackadoodle, I'll change my diet and everything will be okay. So right at this time, a friend of mine says to me that she's cutting out sugar. And did I want to just be an accountability partner to her and join her? So I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I didn't think it was going to really be life-changing for me because I don't eat a lot of sugar. Sugar is not my go-to. I don't have a sweet tooth. So say no to that piece of chocolate cake, no big deal for me. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. Though it goes in the realm of what I'm trying to achieve right now, a healthy diet. So yeah, let's get rid of sugar. So like anything else I'm going to start, I research it. Once I started to research it, I soon found out that I was consuming oodles and doodles amounts of sugar without my consent. I wasn't reading labels, so I didn't know that they put sugar in everything. Sugar is addictive, so they put it in there because they want you to keep coming back and keep eating their products. So that's what they do. They put it in things you would never imagine, things that don't need sugar. I realized this was a problem for me, and I also started researching what sugar does to our bodies. So I knew that I needed to get sugar out of my body. So the first thing I did was get a big trash bag and go into my pantry and start reading the labels. It's also good to take note that they spell sugar in many, many, many different ways. If it ends in OSE, oh, you better believe that is sugar. And they also have other tricky ways that they spell sugar, so you need to educate yourself on how they spell sugar. By the time I finished going through my pantry, there was not much left in there. So then the next thing I did was I went to the supermarket and I loaded up on good quality vitamin-rich foods. I didn't do any sort of fruit at all. Berries are very low in sugar, so berries are not a big deal. Bananas and grapes are very high in sugar. I would avoid them. But any fruit in moderation is not that big of a deal. I didn't do any fruit. Also, carbs, when they get in your body, turn to sugar. So I was also very conscious of the carbs that I was consuming. Then I decided I would take a month and detox. So since I had researched it, I knew there was a good chance I was going to go through withdrawal symptoms. I'm not one who gets headaches, but I started with headaches. I actually had flu-like symptoms, and that's very common. And like I said, I wasn't someone who really ate a lot of desserts. This is just them sneaking sugar into my diet. I was consuming that much sugar. So I detoxed. I also did the withdrawal, so you get worse before you get better. From what I remember, the withdrawal symptoms didn't last more than a few days. I started taking electrolytes, which really helps with those withdrawal symptoms as well. I also continued doing that. I, to this day, put electrolytes in my water every day. So I just made it through that month. And once I started feeling better, I started feeling really better. By the end of the month, and it's interesting that our bodies can repair themselves so quickly, and it's never too late. Once we give our bodies the opportunity, it just knows what to do, and it just repairs and fixes everything inside. So by the end of the month, I could feel that dark cloud lifting. I could feel my energy level starting to soar. I could feel my joie de vivre. I could feel my love for life. I started to feel like my old self again. So because I was still in the thick of menopause, I kept this diet pretty strict for those years. I didn't compromise on taste at all because I love eating. I'm not gonna compromise on the delicious food that I love to eat. It was an effort and it was a little work. But I like to cook and I like to bake. So for me, it was almost fun trying to recreate foods I loved, but in a healthy way. I entertained a lot. So I would cook this food for all my guests and everyone loved it. Everyone would always tell me I needed to open a restaurant. So the food was good. Now I'm 59. I don't have to be as careful. If I see, that decadent dessert, I weigh the pros and cons, decide, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? If I decide it's worth it, I embrace it. I take my time. I savor every mouthful. I enjoy it. I may suffer for it the next day, but the world doesn't come to an end. Also, it didn't solve all my menopausal problems. I still got the hot flashes and my belly fat didn't go away, which I did recently find a cinnamon tea, and I did a video on that, how I really did find a way to help reduce that belly fat. Go watch that video if you haven't seen it already on my cinnamon tea. But it didn't take away those symptoms. Maybe it helped a little, but what I needed help with was my mental health, and that helped so much. So that's pretty much it. There's so many tips and tricks that I could share with you. Leave in the comments if that's something you're interested in. I would be happy to do a video on that. I think that's all I've got. That's my little story in a nutshell. I'm so glad that I have this safe space where we can come together, share, encourage, all without any judgment. These are experiences that only we as older women understand, whether we're at the beginning stages of these problems, whether we've survived them and made it through the other side. We're just here to encourage and support each other. And I'm so grateful for you guys. So as always, thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.